It traced its way toward them, widening from an artery to a stream to a river of ominous color, and then, as a burning, falling object broke through the cloud cover, the wind came. It was hot and searing, smoky and suffocating. The thing in the sky was gigantic, a flaming match head that was nearly too bright to look at. Arcs of electricity bolted from it, blue bullwhips that flashed out from it and left thunder in their wake. "A spaceship!" Richie screamed, falling to his knees and covering his eyes. "Oh my God, it's a spaceship!" But he believed, and would tell the others later as best he could, that it was not a spaceship, although it might have come through space to get here. Whatever came down on that long-ago day had come from a place much farther away than another star or another galaxy. And if spaceship was the first word to come into his mind, perhaps that was only because his mind had no other way of grasping what his eyes were seeing. There was an explosion then. There was another explosion. Richie opened his eyes and saw a glare of fire and a pillar of smoke rising into the sky. "It!" he screamed at Mike, in an ecstasy of terror now. Never in his life, before or after, would he feel any emotion so deeply, be so overwhelmed by feeling. It! Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of Beauty and the Bitch.
Hi, babies.
I'm Mick.
And I'm Morgan. And that was Mick reading from his personal diary.
I was going to make a joke about how that was Stephen King, but you win.
Wait, but yours wasn't a joke. That was
He's here with us today.
Yay,
I'm Stephen King.
Wait,
I'm so...
He's not British? Is he British?
No, he's totally American.
Oh, yeah. Woo!
He also got hit by a car. Did you know that?
Wait, like recently?
Back in the 90s, like twice he's been hit by a car.
Oh, poor buddy. Well, that was a reading from Stephen King's It, which is the center of our discussion today. Mm-hmm. We're not sure if you love clowns. Maybe they're your thing, maybe they're not. Either way, this movie and this book is for you.
Well, I think sitting across from you for so many hours proves that I love a clown. The more garish, the better.
I am wearing quite a bit of makeup today.
Oh, you look good. I was
noticing.
just teasing.
Wow, babies, it's been a minute since Mick and I have been together. You haven't noticed because we have just been putting content out, but it's been several weeks since we've recorded. Since we last hung out, we went on vacation. I think we recorded one when we came back, like right after we came back. Maybe.
Girl, I don't even know. It's
Maybe
a blur. I'm not going to lie to you.
I got a new job. Mick quit his job. Life has been changing and moving. So this is something that's been missing from my life. Mine too. I'm glad to be back.
Me too! Yay! Also, forgive me if my throat is a little raspy, but since I quit my job, I've had to suck a lot of dick to pay the rent.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense for you. But, like, you did accept money, right?
Oh.
Oh, shit, dude.
Damn it!
Yeah, you really fucked it up. It's okay. It's okay. So, Stephen King is this intense author who has written lots and lots and lots and lots of books. And here is my disclaimer. I have read none of them.
I've only read a smattering. I mean, for such a well-loved author, often his stuff doesn't really appeal to me.
It's also sometimes really dense, right? In the case of it, it was an extremely long book.
And I wouldn't call him a wordy writer, but he's kind of encyclopedic. You know what I mean? He likes to tell, like, for example, It is the story, really, of a town. It's about these kids, but it's really also about the town of Derry. And he tends to like to do that shit. Like, I read Thinner, which was a story about this guy getting cursed by a gypsy because he was getting a blowjob from his wife and killed the gypsy's husband in a car. Sure. You know, just normal Saturday. And that one was kind of like about the town, too. Like, the guy got cursed to just consistently lose weight until he wasted away.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was, at first I was like, oh, what a lucky curse. But then that man got real thin.
Ooh.
But then, like, the police chief got, like, horrible acne and, like, this. And then I read Needful Things. Granted, I've read a few, but you know he's written, like, 40,000 books.
Yeah.
And Needful Things was about a demon that comes to town and gives people their, like, fondest wish. But, of course, it's a demon, so you're not going to be happy with that shit. What was my point? Oh, yeah. Large books.
Lots of stuff.
Large books.
So, just to give you, I don't know the total number of books he's written, but just to give you an idea of where he was at in 1986, which was the year that it came out, the book, it was his 22nd full-length novel. On top of, like, of course, novellas and other things that he had written. So, he's probably just been steadily putting that stuff out since then. And that's a lot.
That's crazy.
And people love him. Yeah, there's like a certain breed of people that are Stephen King's people, and I'm really interested in his stories. Horror is not my genre at all. I'm trying to get back into movies and stuff, so that's going well. I saw like Get Out, and that's a good like stepping stone because it's not real scary. And I saw the new Blair Witch, which same thing. It's like scary but not that bad. So I'm working my way back in.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Morgie, every morning when you wake up and look in the mirror, you get your dose of horror. So I feel like you ought to, I affirm you for having
but only when you're
courage.
spending the night and we're like brushing our
What?
teeth
I don't get it.
bathroom.
Wait.
Yeah.
How did that turn around on me?
So anyway, yeah, so he is this prolific writer, and that's why people know him. But do you want to know my newest favorite thing about Stephen King?
Heck yes.
Perhaps you guys know or follow him on Twitter, but he is a prolific Twitter person, and he is hilarious and unabashed and has so many feelings, specifically about Donald Trump. And very, very recently, Stephen King was blocked on Twitter by our president, Donald J. Trump. And
he's not my president.
Girl, preach. To me, this is the greatest service that Stephen King has done for us, on top of just all this great literature that he's written. So I would just like to take this moment to say, Stephen, I know you're out there. You're listening. Thank you for doing what you do.
Should we do a slow snap? Yeah!
Stephen! Stephen, baby!
He does seem like a really good man, though.
Yeah, so that's great, and I encourage everyone to seek his Twitter out and just search through those posts by looking at the word Donald Trump, because it's all over.
I strongly recommend. He also wrote a book on writing called On Writing. It's very slim. It's fantastic.
Ooh,
it's,
okay.
It's like packed with practical advice and knowledge, but it's also really inspiring because, yes, he's written, you know, we should look up and see how many he's written. Let's say 80 books. I wouldn't be shocked. But he didn't start off that way. Like, he struggled a lot and couldn't sell stuff and couldn't get published. And, and he takes you through that journey. So, it's a good book.
What do you think of some of Stephen King's most accessible works, as far as movies and books? Because he has a lot of things in the works right now. Of course, there's a new version of It that's coming out, which has spurred this whole podcast that we're doing. But they're also making the Dark Tower series into a movie starring Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey. So that's happening. Is there a movie? I mean, I've seen several, but is there one that stands out for you?
I mean, for me personally, well, okay, first of all, the original It, the made-for-TV. I mean, that was the first Stephen King I ever saw, to my knowledge, and it pulled me in immediately. It also won an Emmy, so it's got some, like, you know.
Fred.
Yeah. But Misery, did you ever see Misery?
Is that the one with Kathy Bates?
Yes.
I never saw it, but I know, like, the premise of it, that she, like, trapped her... I didn't know that was Stephen King, actually.
It was based, I think it's like a novella, maybe even like a long short story.
I really want to see. I hear that movie's good.
Girl, good in some kind of definitions of good. It'll scare the shit out of you, and I have never looked at Kathy Bates the same since.
Damn.
Like, that's an amazing...
It?
Well,
And
hobbling. All I'm going to say is hobbling, and I will leave it at that. I was hobbled after, and I wasn't the only one.
I'm going to add that to my watch list.
You should. It's really good.
I think for me, the first one I ever saw was Pet Sematary. That's the first one in my memory I can recall seeing, and it fucked me up, but upon, like, a rewatch, it's really not that scary. It's really cheesy. But the one that stands out for me most, I think, is The Shining.
Oh, my God. I completely forgot. Yeah, The Shining. Of course. That's probably number one.
I wonder how accessible the book is, because it is really psychological. Like, it feels like a read that would really fuck you up.
You know, it's so funny you should say that, because just today Amazon Prime tried to get me to buy a copy of The Shining because I just bought it.
Yeah, they knew.
And I looked at it, and it's fucking huge,
Massive.
Just like it. And I was like, girl, I do want to read it.
Do it now.
But I can't right now. But The Shining the movie
it's
is so good. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Everyone is so great in it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like, and it stands up. Like, it has not deteriorated.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know that movie is her name Shelley Duvall, the wife? Drove her to, like, mental breakdown. Mm-hmm. Or, well, Stanley Kubrick really did it. It's not so much the movie. But sure. And that shows in her performance. And, like, Jack Nicholson's amazing. And the Red Rum kid is amazing. And
I feel like that's one of those movies, though, like, we'll talk more about this remake of it and how we feel about it, but to me, The Shining is one of those movies that if they were like, yeah, we're remaking The Shining, everyone would be like, what are you doing?
No.
It is a masterpiece. Like, it's like if they were like, yeah, we're just going to remake The Godfather. Like, there's no need.
Yeah.
There's no need.
I mean, the thing with the It made-for-TV movie, the original It that came out in 86, is like, even the director, Tommy Lee Wallace, which I knew, I didn't have to look at my notes. Even Tommy Lee Wallace was like, look, the first half, great. I'm proud of it. Second half,
not so much.
Wasn't my best. Yeah. And I think everyone agrees that that's true. Like, I'm excited for the remake. And I'm not a remake person, you know? But you're right. If they came out with The Shining, I don't even think I would see it.
Girl, but you know what the thing is I'm sure they will. Because that's the Hollywood way. But, like, it is such a beautiful piece of art that stands up. And if you guys haven't seen The Shining and you're looking for a Stephen King to start with, that's the one that I think you should do that.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, that's the obvious choice. But then go to It.
Yeah.
So you'll understand what the hell we're talking about.
For sure. Okay, so let's get down into the nitty-gritty of It.
Brass tacks.
All right, I've got some facts and figures for you. So, It, the novel, was first published in 1986. And then, very shortly after that, the made-for-TV movie followed on November 18th and November 20th in 1990. They did it across 2 nights because, as you were saying, they broke it up, part 1 and part 2.
That's really cute. So, the TV movie premiered the same year you had your 21st birthday.
Oh, girl.
Yay! That's so good for you.
Please, I was 2 years old.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's really interesting that it was split into 2, and I never saw it as 2 pieces. I only have ever seen it as 1. And so you actually pointed out to me that it's 2 separate ones. And when I rented it on Amazon Prime, it's just 1 chunk.
It just runs through.
So tell me about the book. Is the book split into 2 chunks? Is it interwoven?
It's interwoven, which I much prefer.
Yeah.
And I was kind of bummed, actually, to hear that the remake is going to be 2 movies. Like, it's the first half coming out, in September of this year? Yeah, it is. It's September, like early September. Because in the book, it starts with the kids, who are the heart. But that's why I like the fact that they were woven throughout, because there's something that is just less gripping to me about 7 adults fighting this, like, killer clown from space spider, whatever the hell it is, which we'll talk about more. Really, the thing that's really thrilling about it is when these bunch of outcast kids find the courage to stand up to, like, an otherworldly monster that has cowed every single adult in Derry. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yes, but it's interwoven. It starts off with the kids, and then you get flashes of the adults, of Mike calling the adults and being like, it's come back. And they're all coming back into town. Which is very ominous. It's so good.
I feel like it had a lot of promise the way they split it up, actually, and that it just kind of wasn't maybe executed as well as it could have been. And a big part of that is the chemistry, right? The kids, which normally the kids suck and the adults do great, but the kids had, like, this magnetic thing going on. They were fantastic together.
I love Mike, the kid Mike. His name is Marlon Taylor. He was also on Sister Sister. He's the black one.
Oh, sister.
Yeah, didn't know how much I missed you.
Living in a 2-way twister.
Is that really the next line?
It's one of the
Some
lines.
of the lines? That's all I know is
it's
that first part.
In the
I
song.
loved that sitcom, girl.
So good.
Tien Tamara. But anyway, Marlon Taylor, Mike, I thought that actor was so fabulous. And he hasn't had, like, a huge career, since his child acting days, which is a bummer. Did you have a favorite kid, like a favorite kid actor?
Yes.
Am I ruining the dinner right now? I'm sorry.
No, I gotta look at the list of names. It's a lot of names for me to keep.
Yeah, and a lot of these kids never did anything after. It's kind of a bummer.
So I really liked Bill, right? He was the leader. He was
yeah.
Georgie's brother. I thought that kid actually was like really attractive for like a child. Like that sounded bad.
Yeah, I'm really upset
like,
right
I meant
now.
that like
He's a beautiful kid.
He was a beautiful kid. And so I Googled to be like, oh, I wonder what he looks like now. Girl, he did.
Yeah,
he died at
queen.
the age of 27.
And you know he done killed himself. He hung himself.
Yeah,
it's so
real
sad. See, he was so the way that I suppose I saw it first, but the way I really like fell in love with him was Neverending Story 2. Yeah, which is not good, but he made it like, it must be around the same time because he looks exactly the same. He was also in Sequest. Did you watch that TV show? Me neither. I don't know. But he was like the star of that show. And then after, when he grew up, like he couldn't get work and...
That's so sad. It didn't go well.
He done killed himself. Also, at age 27, which is a very important number.
We'll get back to that.
Okay.
So I really liked Bill. And then, of course, Beverly.
Yeah, she's so good.
Beverly was fierce and tragic.
Emily
and
Perkins.
Sad home life. All the kids were great, but I liked both of them. I didn't like them together, so when she was crushing on him, I was like, no, girl, you gotta be in love with, what's his doodle? You know.
Mike?
Ben.
Brandon Crane, who was in the Wonder Years after.
Oh, good for him.
I don't remember that kid.
That show went well.
Yeah, it's whatever. Do you know the kid who played Stan? It was his only film or acting job ever. His name was Ben Heller.
Oh, okay.
Which
one was he?
Stan Uris. He's the Jewish one.
Oh, yeah.
Who I had such a crush on as a kid.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting that was the only thing he did because Richie Tozier, played by Seth Green,
hello, goodbye,
went on to do plenty of extremely different things, though, in the vein of the comic relief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he knew who he was even as a young child, which I applaud.
I mean, I totally agree. It's like Seth Green had a big career. Tim Curry plays Pennywise the Clown, so obviously he had a long career. But besides that, I mean, I'm sure most of them have had happy lives and have done very exciting things, but like none of their names, like Ben Heller, Adam Farizel, Marlon Taylor, Jared Blancard, Brandon Crane. Yeah. I don't know those names.
Mostly just Seth Green. But
Yep.
You know, you can't win them all, and they'll always have it.
That's true. Unless they killed themselves at age 27.
Oh, God, it's so sad.
It really is sad. It broke my heart.
So, one more little figure I want to throw at you is the word count for it.
Oh, girl.
It is 444,414 words, which is over 1,100 pages. Mickey, I know I don't have to tell you because you recently wrapped up that endeavor.
Girl, okay, I'm going to flip the book in front of the microphone now. Can you hear that?
It's intense.
Does that sound like a cyclone?
Yeah, when we were talking about doing it, you were like, I'm going to read it. And I was like, oh, maybe I will. And then I looked at it and I was like, nope. Hard pass. I do not have the time.
I did notice yo shady ass sure enough took a picture of the book on your own knees and posted it on Instagram and didn't say it was me reading it. Yeah, I'm on to you.
I did do that, and just for everyone listening, I actually did read it. I don't know what.
Oh! You know what, though? Actually, it was a joy. It's a very well-written book. I loved it, I thought.
It's a big one.
I mean, I thought it was well-written. I definitely loved it.
Nice. Well, can we just talk about, just briefly, a synopsis of it for especially those who have not read 1,100 pages and or watched 3.5 hours of a miniseries?
Sure.
So basically it is this horror novel, and like we said, it's this 22nd book ever written, and the story follows the exploits of 7 children as they are terrorized by basically this being that is called It.
And also the it works through them some, but it's certainly the main villain, but there are also like a trio, sometimes a foursome of like older bullies who are actually like murderous, like not just normal bullies like push you in a locker, like cut letters into your skin and push you off high stuff.
They were like the blah 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 gang, I forget, like whatever their leader was.
His name is Henry Bowers.
The Bowers gang, that's what they were. And I read in just some information about the miniseries that the kid that played Henry Bowers like really struggled with being the bully and would often like apologize in between takes for like being so mean, which is, you know, I think would be hard for a kid too. So
yeah well, especially because he's not just like,
he's very racist.
He's extreme. Yes, Mike. He's like, they're like one of the only black families in town, maybe the only in the book, and also seemingly in the movie. And there's a lot of really deep racism in Derry. And yeah, a lot of that has to come through that kid. Like 14-year-old kids.
So kids are bullied, and there's this group of kids, like our particular group. They're called the Losers Club. And we've kind of already been talking about them. Who was your favorite? You didn't say.
Mike. Mike's my favorite. But honestly, I like them all. I think they're all losers in a different way. They all experience like cruelty in a different way, like parental abuse in the case of Bev, or like Bill has a horrible stutter because he's traumatized because his parents have iced him out after his little brother was murdered. And there's
elements of like neglect and lots of
or too much love. Yes, right?
Yeah, especially with the one with the fake asthma.
Eddie. Yeah, Eddie he's constantly huffing on his little, what do you call that thing? Respirator. Yes, exactly. And he doesn't even have no real asthma. It's just because his mom is ridiculously crazy, even more so in the books than she is in the movie. And she's like made him think that he's sick every day of his life. So, but then also it's like Ben, he's kind of like the fat kid, quote unquote, in town, but also in the group. And his mom shows her love by, fixing him 4 plates of dinner and getting upset if he doesn't eat all 4 plates. And
which is legit things. So basically the storyline alternates between following the Losers Club as kids, and they're kind of dealing with this being that's attacking the town and attacking them specifically, and then it alternates to the future versions of themselves where they have to come back together and deal with it. And an interesting thing that I couldn't quite wrap my head around is their memory loss.
That was something that at first I was like, I wonder if they're going to explain this. And really it seems, in the book at least, it was just a byproduct of trauma? Dealing with it. Kind of like, but like mystical trauma almost. It's like, it's magnified traumatic effects because they just forget everything.
Right.
And at the end of the book, they forget each other.
They forget it. Yeah, they forget again.
Mm-hmm. They forget everything again. They don't remember each other. They don't remember Derry. They don't remember it.
What the fuck?
And it's maybe connected. That is not what
happened in the
No, they're like friends forever.
So, I feel like we didn't explain that very well. But like, basically, it's alternating timelines, but also the adult versions of themselves have no memory of what happened when they were kids. So they're basically trying to remember. They're trying to get together and piece together. But Mike seems to rember pretty well. What's with that?
Oh, that's fascinating.
Because he's like orchestrating.
So after these kids seem to have a victory over it, their parents and life just take them away from Derry. They all move away into separate places. And Mike is the only one that stays in Derry. I just got chills. He's the one who stays behind, and he becomes the librarian, and he has like a journal that they show you in the book a lot, like see him writing in the journal. And that's why he remembers, because that's his job, is to be like the lighthouse keeper. And all of his friends go on to become like enormously successful.
They all are successful, which like statistically speaking.
But that's the whole point. It's almost like if it touches you and you survive, like they're the first people ever to beat it in any kind of way.
Sure.
But like that's why Derry is like a prosperous little town, is because it is a negative, horrible, murderous influence, but it also brings like prosperity. The way, frankly, that cruelty often does, right? That's why like business leaders get ahead and stuff. Not that they're cruel, but they're just like touched by prosperity, right? So like Bev goes on to start like a fashion design business, and Stuttering Bill becomes like a world famous horror author.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
Wink.
Yeah. And Ben becomes an architect who does like these huge skyscrapers, and like Richie Tozier becomes a DJ. Well, he's a stand-up comic in the movie, but is potato really. But poor Mike, but because he's the one that just like fate has elected to stay behind, he remembers everything so he can call them back again 27 years later, but he makes like no money and lives in like a rundown house and has no wife.
And he has to stay in fucking Derry.
And he has to stay in fuck ass
Derry.
To live. Yeah, no.
Okay, so
I was gonna say, so Morgie, like, did you like it? The movie, that is, not the clown.
I did not like It the Clown. I liked it, the story. Great. I feel like seeing it upon a rewatch, it really did affect me as a child as far as like, scary stuff. I mean, of course, there are lots of things that make you not want to look underneath your bed at night. Mm-hmm. But things lurking in dark places that are out to get you. It definitely had an effect on me and like my mental state, but I forgot about it. I guess I'm like I'm just like the kids. Like, I grew out of it and I forgot about it. And then when I watched it again, it wasn't scary. Like, it wasn't scary to me this time around. And I thought it was kind of fascinating the way that the children reacted to the clown version of it. You know, it was kind of almost like, oh, hey, what are you? I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. But anyways, what's going on? And I was like, bitch, is there a clown in the gutter? What the fuck are you doing? Like, your mama did not teach you right.
Anything in the gutter is a hard pass for me.
Especially
and not just because of this movie.
At you?
Yeah. A clown, a sexy man, Littlefoot from The Land Before Time. Nope. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's talking to me from out of a storm gutter,
you're done.
It's burnt.
You're done.
I'm finished.
Yeah, so I found that interesting. But yes, I do like it. And I am really excited for the remake because I feel like there's so much potential with it as like a visual medium because it can be more horrifying. It can feel again the way it felt for me as a child. And according to the trailer, I think it's going to deliver on that.
It might do. Well, so do you agree that the second half of the movie? Yeah, significantly worse, right?
Yeah, I basically actually like 20 minutes into that last hour and a half, which is what it was, I just busted out my laptop and started working on some other stuff because I was I have to endure this because it is for a good cause. But it's just really boring. It's just boring.
It's a bummer. I'll tell you, in the book, partially because it is all interwoven, but just also because of Stephen King's writing, the adult part is not. It's less interesting to me than the kid part, but it's still good. Like, it's still legit good. I agree with you, though. The only scene I really loved, didn't find it scary, but you know the Chinese restaurant fortune cookie scene?
Oh, yeah. So I like when the lady came in and she was like, everything okay?
Yeah, and they're all like, scary things burst out of fortune cookies. I don't want to spoil it completely, but ridiculous, grotesque stuff that's really not scary. And watching the adults try to act, watching John Ritter try to get it up for like an eyeball, it's not happening. It's not happening.
Yeah, I agree. So, but what is your experience with it? Like, you've read the novel, which is intense. Like, tell me, how do you feel about it at the end?
I enjoy it. I want to read The Shining before I say for sure that this is my favorite Stephen King book that I've read. But of what I've read, it's my favorite.
Nice.
And I've always loved the movie. Who doesn't love Tim Curry as Pennywise? He does such a magnificent job, and with so little. There's hardly any makeup on his face. He's got like a forehead enhancement and makeup, and that's pretty much it.
Do you like when in the miniseries when they want to cut to his scary teeth, they're like, here's a talk teeth and I have normal teeth, and then cut away and cut back, and scary.
You know, there's a scene where he attacks the asthmatic kid in the shower, and he puts his hand over his mouth, and when he pulls his hand away, there is scary teeth. Even with all that, I think he's scary. Yeah. He's horrifying, you know? I love it. I'm excited for the remake because I'm excited for the climax, which we're probably going to talk about more later when we talk about differences, but I'm excited for the climax.
Should be a lot better.
Yeah, and it's I blame acting, just as you do. You were talking about chemistry amongst the adult actors. It's not there, really, sadly. But I also blame just special effects. They just couldn't.
Yeah, the time.
I know, on the budget they had, you know, and like it's made for TV. It's a huge, huge letdown.
So I read about Tim Curry that he almost was reluctant, or he was reluctant to accept the role of it because he had previously been in a movie where he had to wear a lot of makeup, and I don't know what the film was.
It's that Legend movie where he plays the big devil guy.
Oh, yeah.
And so he had that. I didn't even know that was him until I'd read that fact because he has so much prosthetic on.
Yeah, so he was like, no thank you. But then I guess he decided he'd do it, which thankfully, because it's very iconic for him. And one of my favorite things about Tim Curry playing it is actually, I don't know if it's still the background on your cell phone.
It was for a while,
but you had a picture of Tim Curry just taking a break, filming it, smoking a cigarette in his clown makeup, like reading a paper or something.
Yeah, I had that on my phone before I even knew we were going to do this podcast. Yeah, nice. I just thought that was a hilarious picture. You know what I like about Tim Curry is, but on the fear, it's that kind of thing. I actually found him funny at various parts.
Yeah, he was comical.
I mean, in a creepy way, but I don't know, like, do you remember when, I forget when, but he's talking to Ben at some point, and Ben's, like, thinking about Beverly, who has a little, well, he actually, I think, is in love with her, but we would call it puppy love, you know, because they're kids, and it turns into the It Clown, like, all of a sudden, somehow, I don't remember how, and he's like, "Kiss me, fat boy!" Do you remember that?
Yes!
It's like my favorite quote from the entire fucking movie,
rude.
and I laughed so hard every time, so... Yeah, I like it. I mean, if I was going to give it, like, stars, I give it a 4 out of 5 stars.
Nice.
And I'd give the
good.
book, like, 4.5 out of 5.
That's a solid rating. Well, speaking of ratings, the book on Goodreads, which had, like, hundreds of thousands of reviews, got a 4.18 out of 5 stars. So right on point for what you've said. And the made-for-TV movie got a 62% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, you know, a D minus, like, it had some room for improvement, but good overall.
If, you know what, I bet if we could just see the ratings for the first half, I bet they would be significantly higher.
You true, girl.
Yeah.
So, I like this idea of, like, that there were some scary moments. So, like, what do you think are, like, the top scary moments?
Okay, so... I thought very deeply about this. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you there were 4 different iterations of this list. I kept crossing things off and adding things in. Oh. The air just came on, and I jumped like a little girl.
You scared already?
Yeah, because I'm scared. Okay, so 7th scariest moment. One of the only ones that happens from the adult portion is when, I think it's Mike. No, who is it? It's Ben is in the library as an adult. And all those balloons are falling on people. Do you remember? You probably...
Yes.
I thought that was scary because that makes me feel crazy.
Yeah.
And being crazy is scary to me and also possible.
Yeah.
But, like, there are all these balloons falling on people and no one... Like, adults, quote unquote, can't see any of the it stuff.
Which is crazy.
And that... in and of itself is one of the scariest parts of the movie to me. Is like, oh my god, no one else can see this. I can never make them believe this is happening. Mm-hmm. Because there were people like reading papers who literally had balloons piled up in their lap so that they shouldn't be able to see the paper. But, you know, has something to do with the power of imagination. So that was my 7th scariest. 6th scariest is connected. I don't know if you found this scary, but the blood/balloon that comes out of the bathroom sink. Do you remember that in Bev's house?
Actually, that was probably like one of my top scaries, maybe even my top, because that also, then she tried to show her dad and that he couldn't see it, and then she said like she tried to clean it up, and then as soon as she got it cleaned up, he just did it all over again. Because
that clown is cruel. He's an asshole. Yeah, but it's like she goes in to like wash up after her asshole abusive father does something horrible to her, I'm sure, and she hears like voices in the drain, and they're like, "Come see us, Bevy. Ugh. Bevy, help us, Bevy. We all float down here."
Once again, bitch should have been like, nope.
Yeah, she should have been like, fuck that sink, and fuck this house, and fuck you, Dad. I'm going to Calcutta, you know? But yeah, and then like a balloon comes out. It's I don't know, it's horrifying. Okay. Number 5 scariest scene. I don't know if you even remember this because it's not a big scene, but it's when Ben's dead military father is talking to him.
Yes,
and
at
the
like, marshes.
Okay, you do. Okay, see, I was feeling like maybe I picked out stupid stuff, but you remember all of it.
Yeah.
But the scary thing to me is first it's his dad looking real handsome and fine.
Real pretty.
Standing on water in his military uniform, but then it cuts to Ben. Ben looks all crazy, and then it cuts back and its yellow pom-poms are down the front of his dad's uniform. I don't know why, but I literally just got chills. It scares me. It's like, I think it's because it touches on that uncanny. It's like, at first I just think, oh, this shouldn't be right. And then you see something and you're like, no, you're real close, but you're off.
Yeah.
And that little bit of off.
Slightly wrong.
Mm-hmm. It's like, see, I could have come for you right there, Morgan,
but
I didn't.
It's just slightly wrong. You think I'm not that bad?
No, you're not too bad, comparatively.
You know what? Speaking of that, not to sidetrack you, but I got beef in the movie about... Okay, he's in that marsh, and there's that thing in the background that I guess is the entrance to the underground sewer world.
Yeah, it's
which,
like
okay.
It's like the waterworks.
I'm there with you, but not quite. Also, though, one of the kids points it out, like they're all looking at it one time, and one of the kids is like, that place just ain't right to me. Girl, there is no world where kids hang out near that thing and they don't go exploring that thing and make that the center of like every horror story that they invent to tell each other.
100%.
Right? The stuff of urban legend.
100%. I think so. Yeah, yes. Also, it's kind of a beautiful building in that ruin
it looks like
porn
a castle.
kind of way. Yeah, it's if we were kids, we would have played there,
right?
Except, one, I think the feeling of horror is real, right? So it's that idea of like,
which,
you just don't want to
justify
go there. And two, like furthermore, in the books, Bill's dad at least tells Bill like, you don't want to go in there. Because those tunnels lead on forever, and adults have been lost for days in those tunnels. They lost a bunch of the blueprints back in the early 1900s, and so they literally don't have maps for the sewer system. And Derry's been there since 18 something, I think, or something like that. Yeah. So it's like a death trap.
Okay.
Nonetheless, so without the creepy feeling, you're right. We would totally play that.
But just that one kid, he was just like, nah, it's not right. Well, no fucking shit, dude.
Yeah. So I think actually, funnily enough, that connects to my number 4 scariest moment. Because I think it's Stan Uris, the Jewish kid, who says that. Because he's the one that's always very upright Boy Scout type.
That sounds right.
I think that this happens very early in both the movie and the book, so it's not a huge spoiler. I think that Stan's suicide is really scary.
Yeah, that was unexpected and also tragic because he just was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna go take a bath, which is a tranquil, serene place to be.
Well, it really shows. It's kind of like when old Ned Stark dies in Game of Thrones.
Girl, ain't no one safe.
Nobody's safe. Anybody and everybody could die and might already be dead.
Girl,
you don't know. Who the hell knows, right? So I thought that was frightening on sort of a more meta level. And then number 3, girl, this shit fucked me up. These last 3, I'm scared just thinking about. Okay. Mike's photo album.
Yes.
Girl.
No, thank
girl,
you.
He opens up that photo album, that old-timey photo comes to life, and that goddamn clown comes towards them.
He's doing backflips and shit. And they're just they're mesmerized, which I get, but they're like, look at him. Look, he's getting closer. Look. Bitch, you close that book.
Yes! Throw that shit in the fire.
Straight up in the fire.
And I will tell you, from experience, that is how I react to scary situations. I say, get that shit away from me and burn it. I've done that. Well, maybe not that, but I would. Yeah.
Yeah, you would.
Ugh, that shit scares me. Ooh, I can see it. Oof.
What if they just close it and just put it back on the shelf and we're like, so anyways, we're just not going to talk about it.
Yeah, right. They kind of play that game in the book for a while.
Yeah.
Because they all experience things separately.
Right, and they don't talk about it.
And then it comes out when they're out in the Barrens doing some goddamn thing. The Barrens is this place near the waterworks we were talking about that's it's called the Barrens, but it's actually an overgrown area. And it's that bit that I read at the beginning, that happens in the Barrens. It's very near where it landed, which we'll get to. But it's their hangout. It's their clubhouse spot, kind of. Okay, number 2 is Georgie at the sewer. We were talking about this earlier. Yes. And Tim Curry's all like, hi, Georgie. Yeah. You know? We all float down here. Horrifying.
Which, I don't know how that's supposed... if I was Georgie, I'd be like, I don't really know what that means, and also I don't want to be a part of it.
No! Well, you know what they do in the book I thought was brilliant?
No.
I thought this was... It made more sense to me from a child point of view, it is oh, we've got all kinds of things down here, Georgie. We've got popcorn and buttermellows and blah, blah, blah. And then as he says it, Georgie starts to smell it. And then as he starts talking about, we've got games and we've got elephants or whatever, and Georgie starts to hear it. So it's a full-scale hallucination. Oh, shit. So that makes a lot more sense, right? Than just some creepy-ass sewer man being come down here, let's float together,
right.
You know?
Also, when he held up, the boat, and he's like, oh, you want this back? Guess you just reach your little hand in.
I know, Georgie's sweet little hand.
So sad, and then his little brother, or his big brother, feels guilty for, the rest of his life.
Literally the rest of his life. Yeah. He never gets over it. And, but I get it, though. As a child, I had possessions that, had they gone into the sewer...
You would want them back.
I would blow a scary clown man to get my paper boat back. Well, and I do.
Might lose a hand or two.
Girl, well, if I get that paper boat back. And then number 1, I don't know if I'm the only one who finds this immediately terrifying, but just at the first minute of the movie, I think, there's a little girl playing on her old tricycle. And there's laundry blowing in the wind, and her old mama comes out, and she's like, little Joe Betty, come on in now. Little girl, sweet little pigtails, walks her little tricycle up the thing, and then The sheet blows in the wind. There ain't nothing there. It's fine. Just Dairy Maine. No big deal. And then that wind blows again. And that sheet blows back again. And there's a goddamn clown there. And it is waving at her.
No, sir.
Not okay.
Not okay.
Not okay. I'm full of horror right now.
Yeah.
It scares me badly.
As an establishing shot for it.
Perfect.
Intense.
I told you, Morgan. Speaking of how badly this scared me, I was reading it in bed. I was almost done, so I was deep in it. And I didn't feel scared while I was reading it. I have to tell you, I didn't find it to be a horrifying book the way I find the movie just deeply unsettling. But I swear to you, I thought I saw a clown climbing up over the edge of my bed.
Girl.
I am lucky I didn't shit all over my white sheets. It scared the fuck out of me.
Ugh,
so then that clown possessed me and took over my body.
Oh my god, don't look at me like that. That's fucking creepy. Okay, I can't look at you. Thank you for that list. And actually, this is a really great segue. Speaking of your top scary moment. So there was a really great moment of foreshadowing. I don't know if you noticed with that establishing scene. As she's riding her tricycle, she's singing... The itsy bitsy spider crawled up the water spout.
I did not.
Down came the rain and washed the spider out.
Oh, God. Did she sing it like that?
It was like in the subtext.
Oh, okay.
But
I didn't notice that.
So Aaron actually pointed that out to me because he's smarty pants. But it is so true because it is really intense foreshadowing. Because let's talk about what is it. Because it's hard to answer.
It was my number one question. It's one of the main reasons I wanted to read the book, frankly, because I'm not convinced it's answered in the movie. Not really.
No, it's very vague. And they mention like a couple times. It mostly assumes the form of this clown because it's visible to children to kind of maybe attract them, I suppose. But it also, in the movie, and I'm assuming in the book, takes other forms as well. And it's briefly described as like being able to take the forms of like your worst nightmare. But it's not really played out enough for me to understand. Like, it's not totally fleshed out for me, you know?
Well, yes, I totally agree. Just seeing the movie, I don't think I would have fully gotten it. Does that ability remind you of any monsters from another magical fantasy
series?
Are
you talking about the Boggarts?
Yes. So remind the old kids what the Boggarts
So the
do.
Boggarts are from the Harry Potter universe, and they are essentially these deeply misunderstood entities that you have no idea what they look like in their natural form, but upon you seeing them and them seeing you, they immediately take the form of your worst nightmare, which if you're a child is like a zombie who you can put like skates on to scare him away. But yeah, so your worst fears, which is hard to quantify, truly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So actually, I think that... Now, there's more to it that we'll get into, but I think it is something very similar. At one point, Bill is doing research on, like, what it could possibly be.
Okay.
This is, like halfway through the book. Page 683, for those reading along. And he calls it... Let's see. He says, well, I figured something out. I'm not just actually going to quote it, but he says, I figured something out. It's called a glamour. That was the Gaelic name for it. But all kinds of different races and cultures had a name like this. The Plains Indians called it a manitou. Oh. Sometimes it took the shape of a mountain lion or an elk. Let's see. They believed it could sometimes enter you, the Plains Indians did. And the Himalayans called it a talus or a tylus. It assumes the shape of the thing you're most afraid of. In Central Europe, it had been called the elak, which is the brother of the vampire. In France, it was the loooooove, I'm sure I said that wrong, or skin changer, which kind of turned into what we think of as a werewolf today.
Right.
But so anyway, when Bill's doing his research, he's like, oh shit. And when I read that, I immediately underlined. I was like, that's a motherfucking boggart. So maybe J.K. was inspired by a similar series of cultural creatures.
Oh, I'm sure that she was. And the reason that Itsy Bitsy Spider thing was foreshadowing is because at the end of the miniseries, I don't know when it happens in the book, but there's this climactic battle with the adult Losers Club, with it in its natural form, and it is this, like, weird, basically, like, creepy spider form?
So, yes. Okay. This is why I'm saying when I say that, like, visual effects just let them down.
Yeah.
Because what it is, in the book at least, no, they didn't crush it. No, far from. Those yellow eyeballs they have stuck on top of it, girl, those look like some damn tennis balls. I'm not fooled. It is supposed to be a cosmic alien embodiment of evil. Kind of like the universe's embodiment of chaos and Satan, almost. And it's not just in space. Like, in that little bit I read for the intro, it's not like an alien. It's from, like, dark space or, like, an alternate universe. In the book, it gets real trippy near the end, and Bill has to, like, travel into this dark space place. Ooh. And he also meets, like, the cosmic guardian, like the embodiment of good of our universe, and he's this giant turtle, which they allude to a bit in the movie, but they don't go there, and I understand why, because I'm horrified to imagine how they would have made that look.
Maybe they'll do it in the new ones, though.
That's one of my big questions, is if they will, because that really makes it scarier, because it really is like, it's like a god. I mean, it really is like a god in a real way. And, also... Well,
and the origin story with turtles is prevalent in, like, lots of cultures. So, like, there's a lot there. And in
King's Dark Tower series, are you going to mention some stuff about that?
No, I had some questions. Please go ahead.
That turtle's name is Meterin? Okay. Something like that? Is that what you have?
No.
Meterin? I don't know how to say it, but it is, like, one of the main protectors of the universe. Okay. So it is on par, not as powerful maybe, but, like, on par with that. Actually, it says in the book that Meterin got sick and threw up our solar system.
Oh my God.
Vomited us out. Yeah.
Oh, we're just, like...
Had, like, some indigestion.
Fucking vomit floating through space. That's all we'll ever be.
Girl, I've said that about you multiple times. You never listen to me.
That was true. So I have questions about Pennywise. So in the version of this clown form that it takes, goes by Pennywise. Pennywise is the name of the clown. There's this whole backstory. Pennywise came into town. Every 27 years, Pennywise shows back up. My question is, number one, how does that legend live on if only children know about it and adults don't? Like, there's some disconnect there with how that legend lives on. And then, maybe you don't know the answer to that. And my second part is... So, according to this really great source I use called Wikipedia.
Oh, I haven't heard of it.
Pennywise and the town of Derry, the knowledge of them exists throughout other Stephen King works. So, I'm not familiar with, like, the Stephen King multiverse, but apparently, like, they talk about Pennywise in the Dark Tower series, and it lists information about Derry, the town, in Dreamcatcher.
Which I also want to read, but I haven't read or seen.
Apparently, there's a scene in Dreamcatcher where the main villain is, like, taking over a person's body, and they're in the town of Derry. I don't know if the whole story takes place there, but they come across...
I think it does.
Like, this monument to the defeat of Pennywise the Clown, and there's, like, this moniker that's like, oh, we defeated him, it's all great. But instead, painted over that moniker is the words Pennywise lives, suggesting that it was never dead and that its death was just an illusion, which would leave the door open for future works about it. So it was news to me that it was kind of a multiverse in the Stephen King world.
Because I haven't read the Dark Tower series, I've tried, but I just can't get into it. I didn't know that either until I started research.
So that's interesting.
It is, it's fascinating.
That's a world to be a part of.
Oh, yeah. And that is, that's one of the coolest things that blew my mind near the end of the book. Well, I'm fine. If you want to read the book, you can stop listening now.
Spoilers.
We've given a bunch already, but this is a huge one. It is female, or at least, maybe it, what's that called where you don't have to have sex, you just produce? Not hermaphroditic. It doesn't matter. Like amoeba. You know how they can just go bloop bloop and they just become themselves? Whatever. Anyway, it's either female or it is that because it's laying eggs. one of the things that they have to do in the final confrontation is crush all the eggs. So, but they do that in dark, complete blackness for most of it. They have one book of matches, and like two of the adults now go off to fight the actual spider.
Okay.
And then Ben stays behind to crush eggs. But he's only got one book of matches. And he's like, I think I got them all. Well, what that tells me is he sure enough didn't. Yeah. And, yeah, because it's like a cosmic entity, if you were to miss one, it would just become Pennywise again.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not shocked. But as far as how, this is actually connected to like, if adults don't know about it, like how is this story told? Well, that's part of the reason it has survived so long, is because everyone forgets this shit. Every 27 years, something horrible happens in that town. Like, a factory blows up during an Easter egg hunt and kills like 80 kids.
Oh my God.
Or they burn down an African American dance club on the army base and kill like 150 people. Or like 17 lumberjacks are found after a particularly bad winter, torn limb from limb. Or like there's like horrible things, but people, it just like, so it I just say a motion that means it goes over people's heads. Like me at the math GRE today.
Thank God for multiple choice.
But that's why I think it also, if we think symbolically, it seems to represent apathy, cruelty, or just like giving up on this idea that you can change or affect the world in a positive way. Like, there are multiple scenes where, like, maybe Bev is getting bullied by Henry Bowers, you know, who's the big bully kid who's a fucking psychopath. Or something else awful is happening, and adults look at her, see her, maybe shake their heads a little, and turn away, you know? So, it's kind of become them in a way, or they've become it in a way. And that's part of the curse of living in Derry and living with it. It's not just the death every 27 years, which is horrific, but it's that, like, it's hard to be a good person in Derry, you know?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's scary and it's sad. Can I just say really fast, though? Young Henry Bowers was so hot to me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had
And
that
rewatching
hair,
it,
that
I was
outfit.
still like, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine. He grew up to be pretty fine, too. He's still pretty
good
hot.
for him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's basically it in a nutshell. Ends up being some kind of weird spider thing, so that's...
The eater of worlds and of children, you mean?
Ugh, it's fucking creepy.
I know.
But let's talk just a smidge more about the friend group.
Mm.
What do you think about the gathering of the friend group, how they all become friends? I thought it was really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this, like, token girl character in Beverly Marsh. And I feel like it's interesting based on, like, the type of town that they live in, that she would be a part of that. And do you think that she kind of accepted being a part of this, like, losers club and being the only girl because, number one, she wanted the attention and everybody loved her? Or number two, also because her dad was the janitor and she was embarrassed by that? And, like, number three, because she was abused and, like, they made her feel like she was a fucking queen sometimes.
Yeah, I think all of the above, personally. Can you tell that I'm saying a secret right now, though?
Oh,
like a legit,
you got a secret?
This is mind-blowing, Morgan. I had no idea. She fucks all of them.
What?
As children, in the sewers.
When?
After they beat it the first time, they're lost in the sewers, and they're all losing hope. And this is fucked up, okay? I have to tell you, this is one part of the book. In fact, I love Bev as a character, but the interactions between the boys and Bev, like, it's not that 6 boys kind of love her. It's that, I don't know, I almost feel like her power is rooted too much in the group, and her place is too much that. And she pushes back against it various times where she's like, just because I'm a girl doesn't mean such and such. Or, like, she has the slingshot, right? Which is the weapon, the actual physical weapon they use. But anyway, yeah, they have just beaten it the first time, quasi-beaten it. They don't know if it's dead. They get lost in the sewers because they're out of matches. They're all starting to cry. They're like 11, right?
Yeah.
They've been through a lot. And it's frankly icky. They're covered in disgusting stuff. And she realizes, because her father right before this, also this won't be in the new movie, I know. It certainly wasn't in the old one. Her father attempts to rape her, essentially.
Ugh.
He goes from, he wants to check to make sure, quote unquote, that she's intact. He is horrible. He's one of the scariest characters in the book. God. And she runs away from him, and he's completely taken over by it. Like, he's a madman. Anyway, but that's what puts sex even into her head, and that happens immediately before they fight the clown the first time, the clown spider thing, whatever. And then, yeah, she fucks every one of them, one right after the other. And then after, they're like, God. We've got our hope again. And then they, somehow Eddie, who's got a good sense of direction, who's the first to fuck her, he's like, oh, I know which way to go, and they find their way out. 11-year-old kid
like,
orgy.
Sewer sex? One right
Literally,
after the other?
Poopies all around them. They're not... It's horrible. Horrible.
I have so many feelings about that I just don't even, like...
I know.
Oh my God.
I feel like I just laid a rotten egg. Like, it was upsetting. That was the only part of the book I didn't
So, like, enjoy. When the authors go directions like that, don't you just ask yourself, but, like, why?
I don't... Look, kiddie sex play is a thing, right? They were all consenting. It is what it is. The fact that it was in a sewer was disgusting. I kind of just didn't... There's a lot of dark sexuality that is in all of Stephen King's work, but also in it that is not at all present in the movie. But I don't know. I just didn't... I'm not often turned off by sexuality of any sort, but I really didn't think it was necessary. And I also just didn't want that to be Bev's, like, superpower that she brings, is like, I can fuck the boys. Like, I just didn't like it. To be fair, they do all love her. They do all genuinely, truly love her in their different ways, but, like...
Wait, which one went first?
Eddie went first, and then Mike. Bill was last. Ben was right before Bill. Who does that leave? Eddie somewhere in the middle. Or no, Tozier. Mike. Yeah, I don't fucking know. Eddie was definitely first, and Bill was definitely last. Yeah. And Henry Bowers and his real creepy friend who's not super in the movie, who's like also a psychopath and collects dead flies, they whack off together, and Bev sees that. There's a lot of... I just was like, you know what? Why does Bev have to see every sexual thing and be part of every... I guess maybe that's reality for women more than men, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's icky.
Can I be a Tumblr kid and call it problematic?
Yes.
It was problematic for me.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Ugh. Well,
I know.
Whew,
yeah, how are we going to bounce back from that one, huh?
Okay.
I'm sorry, Morgie. Speaking of sexuality in the book, though, I would like to point out to you, in addition to Patrick, which is Henry's friend, and Henry whacking off together in the dump, there's also another queer couple who are victims of it.
Yeah, I read a little, about they got, like, beaten to very badly, maybe not death.
Beaten very badly, and then they throw one of the gay guys for, like, no reason. This is, like, just a gay bashing. And it's in, like, present-day Derry, when the kids are adults, but they haven't come back yet, right? But this is the first attack of the adult cycle. And I was actually really touched, because... It's really obvious from that scene, at least it was to me, that King is very sympathetic to queer people, and they were in no way stereotypical, I didn't think. They weren't one-dimensional characters. These modern-day bullies, very like Henry Bowers, they beat up both people, but then the one who tries to fight back or is a little bit more smart-mouthed, they throw him over the bridge into the canal where it often strikes.
Ugh.
And then his boyfriend / maybe husband jumps in after him to try to save him. And that's when he sees the clown dragging him away and, like, biting his neck. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But that, it was horrifying. But I was like, well, thank you. A little, because the kids aren't queer at all, which is a little iffy. Because some of those kids are pretty queer.
Yeah,
but
and that's surprising too, because there's so many of them.
Like, yeah, I mean, if we're doing the most conservative estimate, 1 out of 10. I guess Patrick is actually kind of gay, but he's a psychopath, so I don't want to claim him.
Wait, who's Patrick?
He's the kid who jacks off with Henry, but he's horrible. Like, he kills animals, and he's not a win. He gets killed by, like, clown leeches that fly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Queen. They didn't put that in either.
Oh, this is disturbing. There are a lot of
I know.
disturbing
I feel
things.
like I'm doing like an It onion right now. Just more disgusting layers for you. I'm sorry.
Oh, what else you got for us, baby?
Well, I do have one other thing, and this is more of a picker-upper.
Okay, great!
Because I'm, like, legit sweating with all of this sad, disturbing information. This is something that Stephen King wrote about obsessive love. Now, you know me, girl. I'm an obsessive lover. And I thought that this was so beautiful. It's about an earlier kind of massacre that it was behind. I don't have to go into all of it, but that's just enough to know. Violence happened, and then, okay. This guy, Hero, loved this guy, Hartwell, right? As a friend, maybe more. Okay. Hero was sly, and he was mean, and I suppose that in a novel that would preclude any good qualities at all. But sometimes when a man has spent a life being distrusted and distrustful, being a loner or a loser, both by choice and by reason of society's opinions of him, he can find a friend or a lover and simply live for that person the way a dog lives for its master.
Aww.
I thought that was so true. I was like, I think that is facts. I think it's true, you know? You get pushed out long enough when someone finally, like, touches you. Not physically, necessarily. It's, you will do anything.
Yeah.
You know, obsessively, horribly anything for that person.
Oh, I like that.
I like it, too. So there's beautiful stuff, too.
What about the poem that Ben wrote? Is that also in the book?
It is in the book. I love that poem.
Your hair is winter fire. January embers. My heart burns there too.
Girl.
So sweet.
Snaps. If a boy wrote that for me, I would melt.
Yeah.
Melt. I think that's a beautiful poem.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And in the movie, Beverly later realizes it's him, and then they, make out, and they live happily ever after. Is that not at all what happens?
I think that's more or less. I mean, I think she knows as a child that it's him.
Really?
Yeah, originally she wants it to be Stuttering Bill because she has a crush on him. And don't worry, they get to fuck plenty, not just as kids, they fuck as adults too.
Oh,
but yeah.
Really?
But she ends up with Ben, I think. I'm pretty sure they're the only two that remember each other because they go off together.
Okay.
And they go off to the west, but then they forget everybody else. They just know each other.
Perhaps it's better.
It is better. Because Bev was with a horrible, abusive man as an adult, and I cannot with that asshole. Girl.
I was not into that.
But that's sad truth, though, right? That's how so often how it happens. If you're a victim of abuse as a child, you
succumb to it later in life.
You fall back into the cycle.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like we've talked a lot about it and the things that encompass that pretty much. Let's talk a little bit about this new trailer that has come out. So I have been yearning to discuss it with you because I find the trailer for the new It movie to be deeply horrifying and intensely beautiful, all wrapped up into one little package, which is not how I expected to feel. I kind of expected to feel kind of disappointed about the prospect of it, but it looks fucking incredible.
I'm 100% on board with you. I'm on board with the new clown, or the new design for the clown. Scary as fuck.
And, the new design is great, and, the lip curls go up into the eyeballs and extend beyond the eyebrows, which is really creepy. And the clown, is being played by a Skarsgård kid.
Ooh.
I think his name is Bill. So he's Alexander Skarsgård's brother, and they are both the son of Stellan Skarsgård, who is a renowned actor. And one thing these Skarsgårds have in common is they are both beautiful and deeply unsettling to look at, because you can't tell, do they want to murder me? Are they a serial killer, or are we gonna fuck? It is a fine line.
Yeah, you're right. I would describe that, maybe I'm alone or wrong, but I would call that, they have a flinty look. You know what I mean? Which can be sexy, but can also be scary.
Yeah.
Did you watch Hemlock Grove?
No, but I know he was in that.
Yeah, and he was that's not a great TV show, honestly, but it's watchable, especially if you like Vampire Diaries or True Blood.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And he's a similar kind of character in that.
Well, another thing about Bill Skarsgård is that he is 27 years old when this movie comes out.
27 again?
Which is intense because it's about to play into this thing we're going to talk about. But also, that's a really young compared to the original Tim Curry playing it. So, this is such a great opportunity for him to kind of make his mark as this, like, character actor that can be, like, deeply disturbing, but also he's been in some other things that are kind of creepy. So I don't know if that's, like, his niche, that's where he's going for, but that's where he's at. And what a just incredible opportunity, right?
It's incredible. It's also it is incredible, period. But it's also very scary. I know I'd be nervous as shit if I was him because...
Yeah, because if they don't like it.
Yeah.
Because you're going up against Tim Curry.
Exactly. Well, it's like, oh, what's his ass who played the Joker in Suicide Squad? You know? And like,
Leto.
it wasn't a horrible Joker or anything, but after, what was his face?
I just watched 10 Things I Hate About
I
You.
know. Aussie actor, died from too many sleeping pills, played the Joker.
Well,
His name is...
You know what we mean.
His name is Mick Dundee. I don't know. We'll scream it out at some point. But, like, after that, like, Jared Leto was kind of doomed, I think. It would have had to have been
Ledger!
Heath Ledger! I knew you'd get it. Good for you. Yeah, yes. But it is exciting. It's exciting. Yeah.
So, okay, 27 is a number that really becomes associated with the story a lot. And the movie, the one they're releasing now this year, is released 27 years after the original television
I appreciate
released.
that shit.
In the book, it is mentioned that it returns to Derry approximately every 27 years.
To feed.
Jonathan Brandis, who played the young Bill in the original film, died at the age of 27 years old, and the movie, of course, is being released after Bill Skarsgård's birthday, where he will be 27 years old. And if all the numbers of the release date are added together, 9/8/2017, they are all added up to the sum of 27.
Girl, that's some black magic.
Yeah, so there is some numerology happening here. So if we have any fans, any BBs that are numerologists or have more information about the number 27, we know there's a lot that goes along with that, and it's giving me heat flashes just kind of thinking about it.
I think you're just getting heat flash because it's hot in here. My
knees
is
also
are
hot
sweaty.
In here. But I'm excited about the prospect of how that adds up together. But besides the number 27, Bill Skarsgård as It, what are your feelings about the new It trailer?
I agree with you. I think it's beautiful. I think it's scary. You know that scene where he's got some balloons, but they're like an inverted pyramid of balloons?
Yes!
I don't know why, but that upsets me deeply.
What about...
That's upsetting.
So there's this moment, there's a lot of water play in the preview because there's a lot
Water
of...
sports?
Yeah. So, yeah, there's going to be sex stuff. It's going to be great. But there's this moment where he is in the water, like he's like, it's a quick clip where he's like coming out of the water and he's flinging his hair all crazy and he's got the crazy face. That was deeply terrifying. And then shortly after that, there's this, everything gets like quiet and calm, and then his creepy ass clown face emerges from underneath the water, and it is terrifying.
Girl.
Like, I feel like intensely that this new version is going to be even more like scary. More scary.
I think so too. I think it's going to be darker. I think it's going to be more sexual, though I don't think the kid orgy will be in there, because that would be really traumatic for the kids to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that... Oh, I did read... Actually, you mentioned the movie monsters earlier, like it becomes Wolfman or it becomes a mummy. That's also present in the book. I read that they're not going to do that.
So it's just clown? And spider?
Well, I think he's going to take on more, like, primordial fears. Oh. So, like, not movie monsters, which I'm actually kind of glad because... Girl, every time it looked like a werewolf, which is it does that a lot in the book, I was like, girl, I ain't scared of no werewolf.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I would be in reality, but, like, it's literally wearing, like, a high school Letterman jacket.
They did that in the movie, too. Actually, I had already even forgotten they did that. It was, like, Seth Green's character.
Yeah, it's, like, one of the worst ones, you know? And, like, one of them sees a giant eyeball in the book, and so sometimes it's a giant eyeball, and they fight it like that. Okay. Like, I'm just not into that. I just don't find that scary. So new fears
will be defined by the things, the presence that it takes on.
So.
And, of course, there is the iconic scene of Georgie is in the preview, which I think is a great thing to include. And actually, that's the opening shot of the preview I saw, and it was so beautiful how they shot overhead, and you could just see the rain falling, and then you follow Georgie's feet, and as the kids do, he's, one-track mind, and he runs into this barrier. Oops, hurt myself, fell down. Oh no, where's my boat going? And then you get that, like, pivotal moment where it's all darkness in the gutter, and Georgie's like, what's down there? And you kind of see a couple of, like, maybe dim lights that could be eyes and you're not sure what you're looking at. So you assume that it's going to like appear in one of those, and then nope, he just slowly comes into like focus from somewhere else. And it is deeply disturbing and extremely promising. And I can't remember, I think we already said this, but it's only going to be the first half, or they're going to follow the trajectory of the miniseries. So we're only going to get the kids' stories, which, okay, I'm kind of down for it for this version.
Me
for
too.
This version, I think they're going to nail it.
I agree. It's going to be set in 1989 instead of 1958 when the original movie
so that's
was
quite
set.
different.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that too because, I was born the year before. You were 14 at that time?
Yeah, and then
we were both born the year before.
Yeah, and then the second part takes place present day, right? The 2010s.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So I think that's
exciting.
fascinating.
It'll certainly be more relevant.
You know what I'm excited / scared to hear is the clown's voice. Because, correct, we don't hear it talk at all.
Oh, we don't.
So, and that is probably the most iconic, up there with the most iconic aspects of Tim Curry's performance is his voice.
I wonder if they'll pull a Darth Vader and superimpose another voice on top. Because, Stellan Skarsgård at the age of 27, he might have a quite menacing voice, but I'm not certain that he does.
I hope that they don't make his voice like this. I hope that he can be just like can sound mild-mannered, because that's part of what's so scary about it, right? Is when he's down the sewer, yeah, he's creepy because he's in the sewer, but he's also like, how you doing, Georgie? When I come have well, that was actually a Seinfeld quote is what that was. Did you pick that up? It's Cashmere, Georgie. Anyway, no one will get that but me. That's fine. But like, he's not scary voice-wise all the time, but that's what makes him scary, right? So I hope they don't make him like constantly.
So
I'm excited to find out though.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen any casting for the second movie. So
no, I have no idea personally.
They
I have
have
no
not
idea.
chosen the adults. I read that the kids from the original, like they were throwing around the idea of casting them as the adult versions, but of course they would have to do some recasting because the kid who played Bill's no longer with us, and there's a couple other.
Well, yeah, and like old Ben Heller who played Stan, like I doubt he would come back and do another movie.
Right,
he didn't like that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an interesting prospect. What are some other differences that you think we can expect?
Well, there is one really notable scene that is not in the original movie. We've covered most of the differences that I had, but they do like a bastardization of a Native American like smoke ceremony, like in a sweat lodge. Oh. They have this weird underground hole that they like make that's like their clubhouse because they're trying to hide from the bullies. And they want to figure out how to kill it. And in their research, where I was talking about the Boggart type stuff, they come across like, oh, the Plains Indians did this certain research. And so they do it. It's mega dangerous. Like they're lucky they didn't, or, it's a good thing they didn't die. If it hadn't been novel, they probably all would have died in the damn hole. It's like light a fire down there. But that's where, that bit I read at the very beginning, that's where they go back in time and see it falling to Earth.
Oh.
That's a prehistoric.
Like a sweat lodge?
But they that's like a prehistoric age, like before the dinosaurs. It's not obvious when I read it, but like they go back in time way before human beings. So it is like, it's cosmic. It's forever old, I hope that they include that because I think that well, I've already said it, but it's still true. It makes it so much scarier and so much more understandable. If you're not like, it's just a big spider, and you're like, no, it's like a fucked up crazy cosmic deity that fell to Earth but is also present in like deep space and like is the very like embodiment of avarice, greed, hate, and apathy. Yeah. I think it's important. So I'm not certain, but I have my fingers crossed very tightly they'll include that. With their special effects budget, I think it's possible.
Nice. Well, I look forward to that, and hopefully there will be more like new information that you didn't get from the original miniseries, because I feel like sometimes it was a little slow, and also like, there's probably better ways to lay that story out. So lots of room for improvement.
Yes, I can't wait.
Okay, so we're going to keep our eyes out for the new It movie coming out in September, very soon after you hear this podcast, which I am so excited about.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we meander away from our specific It discussion and play some games we prepared?
Whistle go woot!
Woo woo. Okay, let's just jump right into lying and telling truths and just living our youth.
And just being ourselves then,
Yeah.
right? So I prepare a little something for you, Morgan.
Okay.
It's called Two Clowns and a Cosmic Space Spider.
Oh. Well, I'm into it.
It's two truths and a lie. But you see, the cloud's not really what it is. Cosmic space monster is. You see? Okay. Factoid number 1 might be false, might be true. Hugo Weaving was very nearly cast as Pennywise in the remake. This movie that's coming out.
Oh. That's an interesting
Is that Cosmic Space Spider, maybe?
Okay.
Factoid number 2. Stephen King wanted Tilda Swinton for Pennywise in this remake.
Oh.
Is that a clown? I don't know.
Is it a man? Is it a woman?
Right?
Tilda Swinton.
So yes, all of the above. Factoid 3. Tim Curry was offered the role in the remake, but he declined it.
I feel like that one's false.
Do you think so? Is that your final answer?
Yeah. What?
You picked the clown. Yeah, you picked the clown. This wasn't true life.
But he had like a horrible stroke and would certain... Oh, but I guess they started production like 7 years ago. That's the caveat there. Okay.
And thank goodness he declined it because, he couldn't have physically done it. Probably, or maybe he could have. Hell, I don't know. That maybe. So the Cosmic Space Spider, besides that one, is that Hugo Weaving really was very nearly cast.
Interesting.
Yes,
that's
which
I
think
very different movie.
Yes, he's already got the forehead.
He certainly does. No prosthetics needed. Shade.
I was shady. I did. I love Hugo Weaving.
I do too.
I just want Tilda Swinton for Pennywise.
Yeah.
Stephen King didn't say nothing about it, but I think she would be amazing.
I think she
horrifying,
would too.
Right?
In all things.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Okay, well, you fooled me, sucker. Okay, so I'm going to hit you with 2 whatevers you said and also a false thing.
2 clowns and a cosmic space spider.
Okay, so in 2000, a man went on a clown killing spree in the Midwest. Okay, so he killed the clowns. He would book clowns for parties that never existed, and when the clowns showed up to the venue, he would murder them and flee the scene. In total, he killed 9 clowns over the course of the year before he was caught.
Shit.
Okay?
That's... Okay.
Okay, girl.
That's upsetting.
In May of 1990, Marlene Warren opened her front door to receive a balloon and gifts from a clown that rung her doorbell. When she reached for the gifts, the clown shot her in the face and promptly left, dropping her presents and letting her balloon fly. Her murder was never solved.
Now, wait, did that happen to her or did that happen to you?
Oh, girl.
Because that would explain some
voice.
things. Girl?
Okay.
Interesting.
Last one. The sighting of evil clowns by scared and paranoid people in the... Okay, sorry, I wrote this weird. The sighting of clowns in which the clowns never truly exist, apparently, by scared and paranoid people is known as phantom clowns by law enforcement and other medical professionals. The explanation for which is linked to it and other horrifying clowns and clown terror in general. So... I worded that one really weird, but do you know what I mean by that?
No, I'm totally with you. And girl, I know that one's true because I had a phantom clown sighting
You
at the end of my
fucking did,
bed.
girl.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, so that one's
Wait, shit.
true.
Okay, I think that one's true.
And also, like, now I feel like I have phantom clown, and I'm gonna also see scary things everywhere.
I know. It's horrifying. I'm sorry. Yeah. This is like It Follows. We just pass it from one person to another.
Ooh, which I haven't seen, but want
Oh,
to.
you should.
And know, like, maybe too much to enjoy it thoroughly, but still cool.
Maybe.
Okay, so either in 2000, a man killed a bunch of clowns, or in 1990, a woman was killed by a clown, and her murder was never solved.
I think number 2, the woman being murdered by a clown. Well, how would they know, though? I'm going to say that's the falsehood. I thought it seemed realistic, but I don't understand how anyone would know if she got killed.
So it was true.
Oh, shit.
And they actually have further details that are really horrifying, such as they knew the clown had brown eyes because you could see it behind his makeup. And other people had interacted with the clown that day, and he was spotted at her house, and people saw her get murdered. So, yeah. So her murder went unsolved by a clown. And the thing that I invented was that a man went on a clown killing spree. Which,
Can you blame him?
That shit's inevitable.
Girl.
And I didn't include this, but I think it's interesting. Recently, in 2016, there was that spurt of clowns, just like clown sightings.
Just everywhere.
Everywhere. And a lot of that was chalked up to this phantom clown syndrome that people get, and also by the terror of other people seeing clowns. Like, some of those clowns legit were being seen, but because of the terror of that, people then were seeing clowns that didn't exist, which is horrifying and disturbing on so many levels.
It is both. Yes, it is both. I know they arrested some guy in England who was like walking around, but like, I don't know, maybe I am just an asshole, but can't you imagine as a teenager in Arkansas, if this was happening, us being like, hey girl, you want to dress up as scary clowns and go stand like at the parking lot at Walmart?
But honestly, it's a fast track to get your ass murdered.
Well, that's a good point, because if my
dude I invented that killed clowns, he ain't that fake. He would totally come after me.
Yeah, if I see a scary clown, I'm suddenly driving a car somehow, I'll run that damn clown down.
Yeah,
Boosh.
Okay. So,
so I got it wrong.
We both failed. So good
well,
information.
That's just like real life. Great.
Yay! Okay, so let's move to a game I have created for today that I call 1, 2, 3, Not It.
Ooh, I'm excited. It's a cute title.
Or 1, 2, 3, Not It. Even though it's not very sinister. Okay, so this is a game where I want you to tell me. I'm going to read to you actors that were almost cast in movies, but they were not it. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the actor who was almost cast and a little bit about the person they were almost cast as. And I want you to tell me the character in the movie, if you can nail it, and also who the actor was that was actually cast.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, let's do an example round. Okay, for example, Emily Blunt was almost cast as this Russian superhero babe, portrayed by an actress who once played the girl with the pearl earring, but had scheduling conflicts. So Emily Blunt was also almost cast as a Russian superhero babe, which was Natasha Romanoff / Black Widow.
Oh, okay.
Who ended up being played by an actress. Okay. Yeah, in the Avengers. Who ended up being played by an actress who played the girl with the pearl earring, which was Scarlett Johansson. Okay. So, if you can get any part of the answer, I'm going to call it a win.
You're kind, because this is going to be hard, but I'm down. I'm down.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt screen tested for this galactic action star role that eventually went to Parks and Rec star who hit the gym and the roids.
Got you. Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was, now this is the hard part, what's his name? He's so sexy. I don't remember his name.
Chris Pratt.
He
is so sexy.
Oh, I love him.
I kind of prefer him with less roids, though. I like him on, like, the medium roid situation.
I like him medium. Yeah, medium. Roids. Yeah.
He's a little too roided out right now, but, you know, that's, they asked for
action
it.
star.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt also fuckable, just for the record.
Yeah, but interesting to see him maybe as Star-Lord. I don't know about that.
I wonder what he'd look like all muscly.
I'm sure we'll find out. Okay. John Travolta was offered the role of our favorite runner who thinks life is like a box of chocolates. He declined, and the role eventually went to America's Gym.
What? That's crazy. I had no idea that John Travolta was considered for the role of Forrest Gump in Forrest Gump, which was played by Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Not just considered, offered the role.
That would have been a disaster, I think.
I agree.
Personally.
Okay. Gwyneth Paltrow was offered the role of one of our favorite rich white girls whose heart will go on, though she declined, and the role later went to a fair-skinned bombshell that snagged an Oscar for her work.
Oh, shit. Kate Winslet in Titanic? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Ooh, what's her name, though? Kate McGuinty. I have no idea.
Her name was Rose. Her last name eventually was Dawson, which is what she gave. She was like, I'm Rose Dawson. So, so they offered that role to Gwyneth Paltrow, which, girl.
No.
Kate Winslet knocked out of the park.
Gotta be Kate Winslet, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Irish actor Stuart Townsend was cast as this arranger from the North who was heir to a throne, and he was fired the day before shooting and later replaced by an actor who went on to play Captain Fantastic.
I remember this from one of our thousands of mega watches. You're talking about Aragorn.
Yes.
And I always forget this damn man's name. Orange hair.
Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen.
Yes, not as attractive in real life.
No, that's okay. He doesn't have to be attractive for me.
Yes. So Viggo Mortensen snagged that role, which defined the whole movie. So thank God. And Captain Fantastic is that movie I was telling you where you totally see his dick.
Whoop, whoop.
And you should watch it because also it's a great movie.
What do you think?
Besides
Like
that,
7 inches? Like 6.5?
no, probably like 8.
Shut up.
Yeah, girl.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah,
More reason to watch.
he's getting it. Okay, George Clooney was almost cast in this bestie drama from 1991 as the eye candy to two ladies who take a road trip of destiny. The part later went to Angelina's future ex.
What? This is my favorite Brad Pitt role of all time. It's in Thelma and Louise, obviously, and he is sexy and gritty like a desert lizard. And George Clooney would not have been good in that role.
I
don't
agree.
think.
No, he didn't have that sex appeal.
I don't remember his character name, but who gives a shit?
JD something or another.
JD Abs, that's his name.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's a totally different movie. All right, last one. Tom Selleck was originally cast as this adventuring anthropologist before the role later went to the hunky Star Wars veterans we all know and love.
So you're talking about Indiana Jones, I'm assuming, right? I think, what's his name? Harrison Ford. I think Tom Selleck, I mean, I like Harrison Ford. He's great. But I don't know, Tom Selleck might have been able to break off a bit.
This is legit blasphemy, what you're saying.
I'm just saying. I mean, have you seen Tom Selleck's mustache?
Have you seen the original Indiana Jones lately? He just unbuttons his little...
Not impressed.
His little tan shirt down just a few buttons. He's got that gruff kind of personality where he's like, I don't want you, but you're going to wish I did. You know what I mean?
No. No.
Agree
I
to
think,
disagree.
I think we run deep into your well of loneliness right now, though,
Agree
girl.
to disagree.
Girl?
Okay, well...
Basement flooded.
You nailed that game. 1, 2, 3, not it.
Yeah, you made it easier for me. I was getting real scared for a minute.
No, you did great.
Thanks. Okay, so I've got a little gamey game for you.
All right.
And we're going to see if you can do great or if you're going to fuck it up, Morgan.
Oh, no, girl. You tell me.
Okay, well, I'm going to start off fucking it up because I wrote down this name as the title and now I can't remember how to pronounce it. So the name of this game is Coulrophobia.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And it is just a true or false quiz.
Oh,
okay.
well.
So you got 50-50 chance.
Just like you on your math section of the GRE.
Oh, there were 4 answers, but I was equally guessing. Yes. Okay, so number 1. Coulrophobia, or fear of clowns, has been widely documented since the medieval age in Europe. Is that true or false?
Oh, true.
False.
What?
It was coined in the 1980s, the term. It's like a quasi-psychological term, but it's like not really real. It's mostly on the internet. But yeah, that's it. Just in the night when this fucking book came out, and then the movie a few years later is when people started to really be afraid of clowns.
Girl.
So much so they named it. Duh. John Wayne Gacy, the serial killer.
Yes.
My father. No, it's not true. It's not true. What? Nothing. John Wayne Gacy, the serial killer, was also known as the Killer Clown because he would dress up as Pogo the Clown and entertain at children's parties.
I think that's true.
It is true.
Just no.
But I brought him here today! Pogo
Yeah.
He's the one that killed gay men, right? And poured Drano into their brains?
Yep, don't feel safe.
See, now he's the least serial killer I would invite in. He's not my jam.
He's not welcome.
You know who I would be friends with, though? Is that lady in Monster.
Girl!
I think she would like me. I wouldn't be trying to hit her up for sex. I'd give her a burger.
That don't mean she would not murder your ass.
Nah, she wouldn't kill me.
Well, she also scary looking in general.
She is scary looking, but I'd be her friend.
Well,
I mean, if she wasn't dead. And
everyone
also
needs
legit
someone.
crazy. That's true. You got someone.
Aaron, he's throwing shade at you.
No!
Oh, he said you scary like monster. You're going to have to answer to this later when he hears that he's editing this episode.
I'm sorry, Aaron.
Yeah,
I love you.
You should be.
I think I was saying,
I love you, baby.
You look like Monster Morgan, but that's fine. Okay, number 3. Poe wrote a short story called Hop Frog, in which the court clown convinces his king and court to dress in flammable orangutan costumes at a masquerade ball and then sets them on fire.
I think this is true.
It is true.
Besides your intense expression of disgust and terror, I read about this on the interweb.
Oh my God. Yeah, who has ever heard of that story? I had never thought to this.
But you know that Poe, he's fucked up.
He's dark, man. Yeah.
You put people in orangutan costumes, first of all. Second of all, it's flammable.
Yeah, right?
Goodbye.
Literally tarred and furred. I shan't.
Nope.
1, 2, 3, 4. Stephen King has stated that he was inspired by the Joker from Batman while he was writing It.
False.
Good guess. Or good knowledge on your part. I don't know. Yeah, it's false. I thought maybe, but no, he's never said that.
Did he mention Ronald McDonald at all? Because I know Ronald is like an old... I mean, he's been around for a minute. I wonder if he was inspired by that at all.
I don't know. Maybe, because he looks more like Ronald
Because if he was inspired, I agree. Fuck Ronald McDonald. That dude
creepy
is
as shit.
Furry.
Always sitting in restaurants having kids come sit on his lap.
Yes, he's always like cross-legged and like kids are just supposed to sit there. No.
Though to be fair, I did have my sexual awakening in Ronald McDonald's lap, so it's not all bad.
Yeah, but it's because you were looking at the Hamburglar, right?
Yeah, he's the hot one. You're right.
No, we have been over this.
Yes,
I swear
we have.
To God.
It's
And
the
this
purple
Grimace.
guy. Yeah.
Grimace is the sexy one.
Who's like the blob of jelly or something. Yeah.
He's got it going on.
Stupid.
Or maybe you feel about the Grimace the way you feel about Harrison Ford, and I just can't get on board.
Yeah, that could be true.
You think they're similar in nature. And whereas I'm more of like, he's the Ronald McDonald to my, please let me sit there.
I have no idea what we're talking about anymore.
I'm following it tracks. It's
okay.
Cool.
Okay, number 5. John Leguizamo, who played the Violator, who's like a demonic supervillain who masquerades as an evil clown.
In like a movie?
In Spawn. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, you didn't know? Well, this will be hard for you. Had to play... He had to play the role bent in half, literally.
What the fuck?
To achieve the character's obese, grotesque figure. Is that true or false?
True?
That is true, and
now
it's so
I have to
sad.
See that.
Yes, you should check it out. It's horrifying. He's so gross. The Violator. Which is funny, because that's been my nickname for you since, like, 10th grade.
Look, now, that was consensual back then.
Quasi?
Well...
You roofied me every time.
I thought you liked it. I'm so sorry.
It wasn't the worst thing I've ever experienced.
Could be worse.
Yeah, I've had a conveation with you, so...
Aww.
Oh, I'm just kidding. Roofies aren't jokes, actually. That's horrible.
Yes.
Why, don't make that type of
This has been
more
brought to you by Roofies.
Girl, if they want to sponsor us, I'd take it.
We would take their money, but
I'd
not
take
their
anything.
drugs.
No. Well, maybe my own self. I'm not just roofing my damn self at home.
People do take hypnosis like recreational
Oh, they
drugs.
do, yeah.
I don't know about it, but...
I've never tried
I don't
it.
think so.
Thank goodness. Anyway. Next, the possessed clown doll from the 1982 film Poltergeist. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, clown doll?
Comes out from under the bed.
Okay.
Ooh,
It's
girl.
been a minute, but yeah, that was...
This clown doll, right?
That was a pivotal movie in my childhood.
That clown doll was inspired by real testimony from the family on which the film is based.
Oh, true?
No, it's false.
Aw,
I thought that was scary. Yeah, is it one of those condoms with real long arms and legs?
Oh, yeah, like accordion type situation.
I can't with that one.
That whole movie is a big.
Is a big no.
In my life. Yeah.
The closet coming into
Very
life
scary.
or whatever. The TV with the static. Nah, none of it.
That one stands up too. I think.
I think so too. Okay, Twisty the Clown from American Horror Story, Freak Show.
Okay.
Did you watch that?
I didn't, but I'm familiar.
You know, he takes off his face. He's got another scarier face
Oh,
underneath.
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
Queen. The performance by that actor led to various other actors complaining of nightmares while they were filming.
I think, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, that's creepy.
He's horrifying.
Oh, and not to get too off topic, but I read a fact about the new movie is they didn't let the kids see what it was going to look like until the first day they filmed with it to capture their truly horrified feelings about him.
And they were, like, all of them cried after that scene.
I think that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see it.
I am too.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Pennywise, in the original movie, led to various actors complaining of nightmares while filming.
I'm going to go with no.
That's true as well.
Damn it!
Yeah, both times. That's a 2 for 2 right there. And I know these kids had nightmares in this remake.
Oh,
I haven't seen them talk about it yet, but girl, I've seen that clown.
Yeah. Yeah, he's scary.
Phantom clowns everywhere I look.
I bet Bill Skarsgård has nightmares about that clown.
Girl, yes. Just like you do. He dreams that he's himself.
Oh my god.
What? I'm just... It's banter.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, last but not least, I am afraid of clowns.
False.
It used to be false. I don't
Until
know these days.
Until you're Phantom
I don't
clown?
know these days, yeah. I've never been afraid of clowns at all, but like... just in the same way, like, I'm not afraid of dogs, but if there's a rabid dog right now, I'd be afraid of a dog.
You don't have a rational clown fear, but a creepy clown with a knife.
I'd be running. I'd be pushing you down, tripping you, and apologizing and running on.
Uh-huh. I'm right there with you, buddy.
You did a great job, Morgie.
Yeah.
I think you got, like... I didn't keep track. I think you got the most of those correct.
I also love those because even when I get them wrong, it's like good new information for me to be like, what?
Right.
Blow my mind. So speaking of blowing your mind, I've got one final game for you here.
Are you coming on to me? Messick, help. Messick in the future, save me.
It's too late.
Girl, she put a roofie in my coffee.
Ooh, I'm a roofie everybody. Okay, so this final game is a reiteration of a game we played before, This, That, or the Other. And today's 3 choices for you to choose between are, is it a quote by Stephen King? Is it a quote by the King, as in Elvis Presley? Or is it a quote by some other king, which is vague?
That
okay,
is so cute.
Stephen King, the King, or some other king?
You're adorable, Morgan.
Answer this for me.
Okay.
Okay. And all of these are quotes.
Okay.
The scariest moment is just before you start. Stephen King, the King, or some other king?
The King, Elvis.
It's actually by Stephen King.
Shit. Is he talking about writing?
It's talking about writing. Mm-hmm.
Cool. I thought maybe it was Elvis before he goes on stage.
Okay. Put your faith in what you believe in most. Stephen King, the King, or some other king?
Some other king.
It was some other king. Would you like to venture just a guess vaguely on anything that could be kings?
King Louis the 15th.
Good guess, good guess. It was Tarzan, King of the Jungle.
Oh. You ridiculous.
Number 3. I never expected to be anybody important. Stephen King, the King, or some other king?
The King. That's Elvis.
It was Elvis. Okay. Love isn't soft, like those poets say. Love has teeth which bite, and the wounds never close. Stephen King, the King, or some other king?
Ooh, I'm pulled because it's poetic, but it doesn't really sound like Stephen King. I'm going to say other king.
It was actually Stephen King. And actually, I think that's such a
it.
beautiful quote. I'll say it one more time
He's a great writer.
for emphasis. Love isn't soft, like those poets say. Love has teeth which bite, and the wounds never close. It's really beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Okay, number 5. We are not makers of history. We are made by history. Stephen King, the King, or some other king?
Some other king.
And correct. Would you like to venture a king?
Rebecca King.
It's actually Martin Luther King.
Oh, shitter. I should have gotten that.
It's
Damn it.
beautiful too.
Yeah.
Okay, number 6. The mind can cultivate, but the spirit yearns, and the heart wants what the heart wants.
Stephen King.
That was a Stephen King. Okay. Ambition is a dream with a V8 engine.
Elvis?
The King
Okay.
himself.
I don't like that quote too much. You
Yeah.
can take that one back.
He had a lot of religious quotes that I declined to choose. Okay. Truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away.
Stephen King.
That was actually the King.
Damn.
Yeah.
Fuck. The ain't should. Ain't. That was the clue. Oh, well.
Okay, number 9. Sometimes human places create inhuman monsters.
Stephen King.
Oh, yes, girl. And preach. I mean, truth.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10. Whatever I have become will be what God has chosen for me.
Is that Elvis?
That's the king
You gave me a little clue with that one.
Okay. Punctuality is the politeness of kings.
Other king.
It is another king. There's really no point. It's Louis the 18th of France.
I might have guessed that. I guessed Louis the 15th 2 seconds ago. I would have gotten that. Scorekeeper!
Okay. We'll just award you the point.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Last one. Look inside yourself. You are more than what you have become.
Stephen King.
No.
Fuck.
It was another king. It was actually Mufasa.
Shut your mouth!
Lion King.
Get out of here.
Let's say it one more time with feeling. Look inside yourself. You are more than what you have become.
I'm
the thing nobody eats you are. From the day. Okay, we don't have the copyright to that.
Yeah,
so
no. It's
nobody
probably
does it.
also vaguely offensive, but we're doing the best we can, okay?
Extremely
That's a foreign
not the words
language, yeah.
that they say. So,
That's a foreign language.
yeah, but I find actually that quote very moving by Mufasa and very Stephen King-esque in that you're more than what you've become because you can be greater. So thank you for humoring me for this, that, or the other.
That was super fun. I learned a lot.
Okay, so we had so much fun talking about it today. I feel like I learned a lot. This was one of my favorite podcasts to have prepared for.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Aw, because of me, right? Wait,
Okay.
I wasn't there when you prepared. This doesn't make sense. I don't get it.
So, everyone, we look forward to this new It movie that's coming out shortly after the release of this podcast, but where we're at right now, kind of in the distant future. So, let us know how excited you are about it. You can find us on social media. We are at B&B Cast on Instagram and Twitter. You can find our Facebook page also under B&B Cast, or you can just search Beauty and the Bitch. If you want to find me personally on Instagram, I'm there at Morgandolph. Let us know for real. Are you excited about this? Do you think it looks promising? Are you terrified already? How do you feel?
And then I would also like you to let us know, true or not true, Morgan bears more of a resemblance to Pennywise, the former, than to the new iteration.
Oh, yes.
I think you look more like the old one than the new
Definitely
one.
when
Personally.
you wake up in the morning. Yeah. And you can email your queries and inquiries.
Why's it gotta be a queer E? Oh, I see you.
Those go straight to your personal email. Send all your queries.
What was that we said earlier? Dirty buttholes.
Yeah, to dirtybuttholes@gmail.com.
Cranked out bitch. That's me.
But you can reach us at beautyandthebee@gmail.com. And of course, follow our blogs and our website, bnbcast.wordpress.com.
Morgan has her own category on XTube. I really recommend you check it out. It's called Dog Helmeting with Morgan.
I'm not even going to deem that with a Google. I don't even want to know.
You really don't want to know that,
okay,
no.
But we'll talk about it offline.
I'll def tell you. By the way, the new movie, I don't know if we actually mentioned, maybe you did and I missed it. It comes out September 8th.
Yes,
September
we did.
8th.
Because September 8th, 2017 added together.
Oh, I'm such an asshole. Well,
26.
that's another good reminder. You should go see it immediately and let us know what you think.
Yeah, I know. I think we should go see it together in solidarity. Yeah, so thank you for joining us today. We have just some general pluggy plugs we want to do.
Yes, I have an amazing plug that I'm super excited about. I thought Morgan was just going to forget that I had it, and I literally punched her in her ruffian face just now.
Everything feels nice.
No, I would never. I highly recommend this podcast that I've recently found called Making Oprah. You can find, I know it's very different from what I've been talking about, but it'll be good after all this horror.
Are they like, and you get a podcast and you get a podcast?
No, it's actually about the first years of Oprah's career and how she kind of took the crown from Phil Donahue and how then she became a worldwide sensation, and it was so good. Who doesn't love Oprah, right? We all love Oprah because we're of that generation. Mm-hmm. I cried at least once an episode.
Aww.
And there's a really good bonus episode with this interview with Phil Donahue, who I didn't even know I loved, but I love that man.
Oh, man.
It's short. It's only 3 hour and some change episodes long, plus some bonus episodes. Just search Making Oprah on iTunes or any of those Stitcher.
I'm definitely checking that out.
It's so fucking good. I can't tell you enough. It's amazing.
Okay, well, by the time you guys hear this podcast, summer movies will have been intensely in full swing, and you've probably seen all of them. But in case you missed out on some summer blockbusters, I wanted to plug the first 3 that I've seen this summer that are fucking incredible. Outside of Wonder Woman, which I guess technically was a summer blockbuster, but that was great. You should see that. But 3 summer blockbusters I recently saw, like in the last 2 weeks. The Big Sick, starring Kumail Nanjiani and Zoe Kazan, was fucking amazing. Maybe one of the top 5 rom-coms ever made ever. It was beautiful and amazing.
Shit.
But if you don't like rom-coms, it's probably not for you. But also, if you don't like rom-coms, give it a try, because it's something different, and it is deeply funny. It is hysterical, and you'll laugh, you'll cry, there's just so many emotions you'll go through, and it's great. It's very heartwarming. And based on Kumail Nanjiani's life with his wife Emily, how they met and like their relationship. The Big Sick. Spider-Man Homecoming, which I had no expectations for because I avoided all previews and saw like absolutely nothing leading up to it, but my husband was excited, so we went to go see it. Oh my God. It was amazing.
Really?
Yeah. Michael Keaton as the Vulture, not cheesy at all. He totally crushed it. This is a Michael Keaton era right now we are going through. He's incredible. And the kid who played Spider-Man, which I had no expectations for, Tom Holland. He's been in a lot of other things, but most notably he was on Broadway as Billy Elliot, and was really famous for that. He's supposed to be 15 years old in the movie, maybe 16. So I had feelings when he took his shirt off, and he was definitely not 16 years old. But he is really youthful, and it was amazing. It was so great. It was like throwback Hollywood teen rom-com, 16 Candles, like that kind of feel. But also it was a superhero movie. So way better than I expected. And the third movie, which I just saw a couple days ago, was Baby Driver, which was an Edgar Wright vehicle, which he's the guy who did Hot Fuzz and that kind of Shaun of the Dead, those movies. So it is a humorous, intense action movie that also is a romance. I don't even know what category to put it in.
It's got like a fantastic soundtrack too, right? Isn't the soundtrack like the spine of the movie?
Yes,
I read that
100%. It was incredible. And there was a lot of long takes where they don't cut away, where they do like long walking shots, which is very hard to execute. And he did several of them. And They went all in. They went all in. It was beautiful and amazing. So if you haven't caught those 3 blockbusters by the time you hear this, you need to put those on your watch list, because, oh my God, all 3 of them blew my mind.
God, now I have to go see a bunch of movies, and you have to listen to a bunch of podcasts.
I know. Well,
Girl,
we've all got our list of shit to get done. So until next time, babies.
Bye, Mimi.
Bye.
Bye, Mimis. We all float down here.
To feel safe.
John Wayne Gacy! Ah!
Use your bathroom, right?